I want to talk to you about how you are being manipulated, how you are being psychologically messed with, and very much manipulated into effectively being a sociopath. So this murder of Charlie Kirk, all I'm seeing in all of these feeds on social media and on and so forth are people in both political parties in ways calling for blood. Now, me personally, I probably would identify far more with the conservative, far more with Republicans. I don't even know which political party I really would be, but I'm assuming that's the one. And a buddy of mine told me I'd probably be a libertarian, right? But all of these are just titles of which we give ourselves. Meanwhile, we have the other side cheering. There are people who are cheering, which is very sickening. We have people cheering that a man was murdered, okay? We have people putting comments up like, oh, could Trump be next? Oh, could this be next? Or Ben Shapiro, or just naming these names of the opposite political party of which they are like, oh yeah, cool, let's kill that one too. I'm going to get to how you're being manipulated heavily. Something that you need to understand, and these are my views, okay? I don't think this was a lone gunman. I find it very difficult to believe that. Because of the pressure cooker of where our country has gotten to, I find that very difficult. With that said, if you take certain leaders in the past who have been silenced, well, who are they? Abraham Lincoln, killed probably over the slaves releasing them. Martin Luther King, he was killed because he spoke out once again against slavery, against equal rights for blacks, and on and so forth. You silence these people, and we'll use Charlie Kirk now. J.F. Kennedy, talking about being anti the establishment, the Federal Reserve, on and so forth. You silence these people not because you can refute them with other ideas. You silence them because they are speaking the truth, and that truth is diametrically opposed with your goals. Charlie Kirk was talking about things, and he was getting to the youth. The youth are the ones who effectively are going to be able to change this world, hopefully to be a better place. You either need to indoctrinate the youth to go along with this crazy descent that I'm seeing in our civilization, or you need to guide the youth to being a healthier youth, to grow up and be the men and women that are going to lead tomorrow's changes, right? Charlie Kirk was going to those rallies at the schools and such. Personally, I think he was silenced not because of right or left. I think he was silenced because the owners of this world, the real owners. I'm not talking about like you own your property. You don't own your property. Anytime you own a house, you're paying rent for taxes. Like, stop paying your taxes. Tell me how much you own your house. I'm talking about the ones that like really own things. They want everybody divided. And they do this through feasibly psyops, which is what I think we're experiencing once again right now. Now, even if it was a lone gunman, and that person wanted Charlie taken out because he didn't like his views, why would that person think that that would be the way to go about things? Well, if we take a look at it, news is sensationalized. Once again, who owns the news, by the way? Same people. News is highly sensationalized, and it's all about getting views. Meaning, you need to have the most outlandish depictions of whatever you're trying to show. The craziest footage, the most shocking stuff to get eyeballs. When you look into the political arenas, you can find absolutely unhinged people on both sides. You could find people on the liberals or Democrat or whatever the heck, you can find deranged people on that side, and that's what you see. That is why you believe that liberals are all out their minds. You can also find extreme examples of perhaps my side, right? You can find people that would genuinely be considered lunatics. Now, I don't consider myself a lunatic. Let's see. I right now I have a beard. I drive a lifted truck, carry a gun on me everywhere I go. Does that make me a lunatic? No. I'm pretty grounded. But you can find people that match that same MO that are deranged. And what you do for the media is they take those people and they extrapolate the wildest ideals from that group of people, and they will get the person who is a ranting lunatic talking about crazy stuff with guns. He's arguing with police because he's carrying an AR on him that he's like, well, this is my rights, but he's walking down the street just causing fights over nothing. You can find these people that are deranged. And when you take that and you show that to the other side, those people look like they're violent. Those people look like they're toxic masculinity, you know, whatever you want to call it. But you get both sides, these ranting, crazy, over-the-top people on the liberal side, and these uber violent, you know, toxic people on the right side. And then you parade them in the public's eye with increasingly higher levels of isolation and echo chambers, which is how you control a populace, by the way. You isolate the two sides. You create an idea that there is two sides of things. Then you isolate each side from the other, and you continue to feed them crazy levels of propaganda again and again and again, and you eventually get to a point where both sides thinks the other's a lunatic, and they won't even hear what the other side has to say. They see one thing about a liberal or one thing about a Democrat or conservative or whatever, and it becomes abhorrent. They won't even look at it because that side's crazy. They're the bad side. They're the ones in the wrong. Regardless of my different views, I'm sorry, let me make my point. So you've segregated them, you feed them with propaganda. Violence only comes when ideas and sharing of conversation is no longer possible. That's when violence occurs. Once violence occurs, a lot of times there is a descent into a population that gets more and more and more socially removed, mentally removed, and calloused towards seeing violent acts. With this levels of propaganda on both sides, you have a lot of Democrats and liberals who are literally cheering for this man having been killed in front of his family. That should never be cheered for on either side. But the descent into madness, once it has taken hold enough, it is feasibly that you will not care that the other side is being destroyed, like killed, blood on the street. We're going to be, assassinating our political opponents now? And people are going to be cheering on both sides? Do you know what follows that? That's a really bad world you don't want to go to. With that said, with this descent into madness, if you will, This is being orchestrated by the people who run this world. And the ones who do so, they want you divided. They don't want a family unit. It's the reason for this rise in calling every manly man a toxic masculine individual. It's the reason for calling all women crazy. It's all of this division serves nobody except the people who always benefit from it from a financial standpoint. You cannot control a united public. It doesn't work. You have to have them all segregated, all broken down, all hating each other, and all fighting with the wrong ones. I have friends who are liberals. I have friends who are conservatives. And these people are level-headed individuals. Because I have a criteria for being friends with me. You got to be pretty level-headed, right? These are level-headed individuals. But the media would have you believe that on both sides, if you only listen to one with an echo chamber of Facebook coming back to you with the algorithms and everything and the comments and what you're going to see, Facebook knows your political beliefs, and it's going to reflect back to you your political beliefs and how crazy the other side is. That is what these tech companies, that is what this stuff does. It's outrage culture. To get a populace okay with the slaughter of somebody, you have to dehumanize them. And that is exactly what is taking place. That is how you're being manipulated, or, you know, different people are being manipulated to begin to accept this levels of violence. And what comes next after this? Control. If these levels of violence do continue and do not stop, which you are the one who has power over it to stop listening to all this crap, if this doesn't stop, that's when the government, or when the, you know, the powers that be, they're going to step in and they're going to be like, you guys are too crazy. We're going to lock such and such down, and we're going to do it in the name of safety and security. But they're the very ones who have orchestrated the problem. That is how this works. And once they've done that, it will be so much more difficult to repeal that and push that back. That's how the Patriot Act got pushed through. And you're going to have people who state that the Patriot Act came from just needing to protect us from the terrorists. Sure, but there's a lot of stuff written in that Patriot Act that allowed them to overstep on levels of privacy sanctity, if you will, and just do whatever they wanted if they wanted to target you for something. What we are seeing with Charlie being murdered, the way of which he was, and one side cheering, we're seeing sociopathic type tendencies where we no longer have empathy and sympathy for the other side. But I would encourage you to push against that, because the reason that these public figures have been silenced in life, who were speaking out against different things like the establishment, or slavery, or women's rights, or all these different figures who have been taken out to some degree, they were trying to orchestrate a change through their words. And their words are powerful, and that is why when you silence somebody, you prove that. Because if indeed their words weren't strong, you wouldn't have to silence them. You would simply have to let them talk their way out of it. Let them talk their way into like a corner that they can't get out of because they have no points. Or you would be able to refute it with your ideas. my whole point with this video is that I'm seeing this anger and hatred erupt from both sides, and neither of them are correct. Because if you ever actually sit down with these people that are painted to be so crazy, some of them are, but it's actually a very small percentage. It's these fringe people who have these wildly crazy ideas that is over the top and very easily like a caricature of a human and a caricature of the political party that you're trying to oppose. This left versus right crap. If you sat down and you had a respectful debate or a respectful conversation where you were actually open to listening to the other side, you would have far more unity in our communities. And the issue that I'm seeing is that this is just throwing gasoline on this fire, and it's very upsetting to see, because it is causing you to turn against your neighbor because they have some sign in their yard. And it gets you to the point to think that person is the problem. Listen, man, if I have a flag in my yard, regardless of that flag represents something, it may not represent what you find that flag to represent. It might represent to me something entirely different, but under the same banner, right? It's very frustrating to me to see this, as opposed to being something that brings people together and makes people realize that there's a woman who just lost her husband in front of her, who has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that were, I believe they were all present. Instead of realizing and having to come behind her and give support and understand that we all need to love each other more, this is just inciting more violence. And I'm telling you, the people who really run things, who profit off of wars, who profit off of evil, they just laugh at how easily the masses are psyoped and messed with their psychology. This is like playbook type stuff when you want to divide a people or destabilize a country or a community. That is what this is. At the very least, lone gunmen or not, they're utilizing it with the media to talk about this dangerous rhetoric towards both sides, when it really needs to be discussed of like, hey, look, this has gone way too far. We all need to calm down. We all need to breathe. We all need to mourn a good individual who was standing for what he believed, was doing it in a non-violent fashion, and he got silenced. We need to come together when things like this happen and take this as an opportunity to be like, wow, this is way too far. Because this only leads to more of this if we continue with the anger and the hatred towards the other side. That this is what tomorrow will bring. This is what this is the road we're on. If we have this take place and we don't stop, and it's for us to do, it's not for the media station to do it. They're not going to stop. Like, if you have an agenda to push and you own that media station, it's not stopping, guys. Sensationalized news is not going anywhere. So that's my rant. I really would like for people to open their eyes and to stop hating on the other side and stop having this fuel that's thrown at them, and stop thinking that it's all men or it's all liberals, it's all, I don't know, just, there's crazy people in every sect of life. That does not mean that they represent the whole. And that is what I think people have to start to realize, and how you are literally being actively manipulated to have this hatred burning inside of you, so that you never actually look at the people that are orchestrating it in the first place. Because it will just continue if you don't.